That's Mark from Top Local. We're here with Bernie Pawlik, Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver, Vancouver's best auto service experience, 16-time winners of Best Auto Repair in Vancouver as voted by their customers. How you doing, Bernie?
I'm doing very well.
So we're going to talk about Jeeps. We're back into the land of Jeep, a Jeep Liberty 3.7 liter. So this is a gas engine, which is a bit different than talked a lot about their diesel vehicles. This is gas. What was going on with this vehicle?
Well, this vehicle came to us for a maintenance service and an inspection. So we had a look at the vehicle, found a few things. One of them was a coolant leak on top, at the top of the engine, which was not a huge leak, but definitely something potentially serious, which is why we're talking about that on this hangout.
So was there a lot of coolant leaking?
There wasn't a lot. And the interesting thing is the way the coolant was leaking. Because of where the coolant was leaking, it wasn't a large leak and can never amount to a large leak, but where it was leaking is what's really the most important thing. I'll just share some photos here. This is our actual coolant leak. So this is the coolant overflow bottle. It's located on the right-hand side of the engine compartment. And it's basically an expansion tank for the cooling system. This is where the radiator cap, it's out of the frame off to your right over here. But the radiator cap sits on top. This is where you fill the coolant. Now, the red arrows are pointing to what's broken on this piece. There's a very small diameter hose. It's basically an air bleed hose to keep air out of the system so it circulates coolant. And where the bottom arrow here is where where this piece here is supposed to attach into the coolant bottle. So what's happened is this has actually created a small coolant leak that spews coolant out. Now, where this bottle is located on the engine is kind of the critical part. I'm just going to work my way through these shares here. So this is the result of that coolant leak. And if you look down, this is the top of this is the right cylinder bank of the engine. Coolant bottle sits on top. And all that reddish colored stuff, that's dried up antifreeze. Chrysler's antifreeze from the factory is a reddish color. So it ends up showing like this. Now, around here, we have fuel injectors. We have ignition coils, and that's kind of the critical piece. The ignition coils sit in this area here, and coolant is dripping down on top of the ignition coils, running down into the spark plug wells. We have one more photo here. These are the spark plug. These are ignition coils taken out on that cylinder bank. So you can see that these coils this one's okay, but these ones are covered, especially this one, in antifreeze residue, and it's run right down into the spark plug tube and created an engine misfire. Okay.
So besides leaking coolant and, potentially causing overheating problems, what other problems did this cause?
Well, this was actually causing the engine a slight misfire. Now, the spark plugs in this vehicle were quite old and we replaced them. But, had it started leaking a lot worse, the engine would have definitely developed a severe misfire and could, with coolant seeping into wiring connectors, it can cause damage as well. So I think, this leak may have been going on for a little while, but we caught it at a good time to fix it. So the repair, basically new spark plugs just based on age, cleaning up all the leaked coolant and the ignition coils and replacing the coolant bottle, and we flushed the cooling system with fresh antifreeze as well.
So how reliable would you say these gas-powered Liberties are in comparison?
In comparison to the diesel, is what you're saying.
Or into their competitors even.
Yeah, I'd say these vehicles do have their issues. The engines have problems. We've seen timing chain issues with them. We've also seen one common problem with this engine, and it's a 3.7 liter V6. Chrysler also uses a 4.7 liter, which is basically the same kind of engine, but it has 2 extra cylinders because it's a V8, not a V6. One common problem with these engines is the valve seats fall out, which involves some major engine disassembly and major expense. So, overall, they're not the most reliable vehicles out there. There is a lot of them. And if you're asking, do we want to, which better, the diesel or the gas? I couldn't really say which is better, but because the diesels have their engine problems and they cost a lot to fix. So if you're wanting a vehicle that doesn't have any problems, this isn't the vehicle to buy, but they're a nice little niche vehicle, of their size and being all-wheel drive.
Anything further on the Jeep Liberty?
No, I'd say, you know, you're looking to buy a used one, definitely get an inspection done on it, and just, you know, do your research and know these particular items. You know, the diesel, you know, you've seen our hangouts, there's a lot of information on the diesel, the problems, and the 3.7 liter engine, which is the other offering. You know, there's issues with those. So as long as you go in knowing what to expect, then there's no surprises, and everything it can only be better.
And would you say with a vehicle like this that doesn't have the best kind of record, that regular maintenance is even more critical?
Well, it is for sure. Regular inspections, regular maintenance, definitely more critical. We just talked about timing chains and on Acuras in our last hangout. Again, you know, these engines all have overhead cam systems with timing chains, and so again, regular oil changes are just absolutely crucial to the life of these engines. So yeah, good maintenance is really important.